This is the Landlord Survival Show. When people stop being nice and shit gets real. You're the landlord. We're here to help. This is a show for what the gurus don't tell you about owning rentals. We're here for you because we're stronger together.
Brought to you by Empire Industries Property Management. Built for investors, by investors.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Landlord Survival Show. I'm your host, Steve Rozenberg, and I have created this show for investors. A lot of people out there trying to struggle and flip and wholesale and hard money and any other term that they come up with, house hacking, Burr method, all the above. You know, everyone's out there trying to figure it out. I've got a good friend of mine on today, and I thought it was fitting to have him on because he is a Marine, and Memorial Day is coming up. So obviously want to thank him for the service and everything that you've done for us, man. So I appreciate all that you do. And the reason we created this show is really simply people like Juan, people that are out there that have come from another industry, like myself, like Juan, that are kind of out there trying to figure it out, right? We're all trying to figure out how to be better investors, better owners. And let's face it, it doesn't always go easy for us. It doesn't always go right, and things go wrong. And it's kind of what happens when it goes wrong. And maybe we'll talk and see how he kind of has that Marine creed that he uses in the daily basis. And, Juan and I have had a lot of stories in the past that we've talked about. So, again, this show is on iTunes. We have it on Facebook group, the Landlord Survival Group. So if you're not a member, join that group. And we talk about stuff that's going on as investors. That's what we want to talk about. We want to help investors. We ask that you share the show so other investors can see it. And we have investors all over the world that are on the show, as well as in the Facebook group. And again, it's just a community to help each other. Well, we try to keep it small so that we can have intelligent conversations with other investors about stuff that we deal with on a daily basis, whether you're flipping, wholesaling, whatever it is, we're all fighting that fight. So with no further ado, Juan, thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. I appreciate you coming on. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate you taking the time out to do this.
No, man, I really appreciate it, man. First of all, thanks so much for reaching out to me. I will tell you something, man. I think the shared brotherhood of being in the military together, I think, has served us well. And, one of the other things that once I got out of the military is you want to find people that share the same mentality, that share the same passion and ethos that we did in the military. And quite frankly, not the only people, but the majority of people that can really understand where we come from is other entrepreneurs. And that's why I think I was so pulled into this direction in real estate investing as an entrepreneur, is because you miss that camaraderie from being in the military, and you very quickly find it with other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's true. So you and I have an interesting story about how we met. I'll let you kind of tell it because we've told it before to people, but I think this kind of exemplifies the entrepreneur and helping other people. So I'll let you tell the story because you tell it better than I do.
Okay, cool, man. So anyway, so at the time, dude, like this is one of the weird things. And I honestly, at the time, did not feel in the capacity to be able to reach out to you. Mostly because it was just kind of a weird situation where I had seen you, I had seen what you had done with Empire Industries, all the stuff that you had going on. And I was actually on a deployment. I was out in Afghanistan, and I had just recently moved my wife and my newborn kid. I put my wife on the plane. She was like, the baby had been born, it was like 10 days old. I think there's a flight restriction. You can't fly with a kid under a few days old, and the kid was just meeting the threshold there. So I put her on a plane. I said, you got to go back to Texas. I got to go do this deployment. And, I had a place for her over here, a house that we had just bought and remodeled. And, I get to Afghanistan, and then all of a sudden, like, there's some electrical issues going on with the house. The air conditioning's not working. Something's going on. I can't remember exactly, but some sort of an electrical issue at the house. And so she's trying to get a hold of me. It's very difficult to get a hold of your spouse if you're overseas deployed to a combat zone, man. And so by the time she got a hold of me, I'm trying to do, as much, trying to figure out what I can do to help her as best as I can from being on the other side of the world. And like, man, I was just trying to rack my brain. I'm like, who can help me? Who can help me? Who can understand? And it's kind of an emergency situation for me. It was, especially with a baby at home. And so I reached out to you, man. And basically you immediately responded and said, yeah, sure thing, brother. We'll help you out. It's not a big deal. And I think I didn't even know that you were in the military at that point, honestly, man. And,
No, I've never been in the military. I've never been in.
no?
No, no,
What? I thought I could have sworn you were the.
no.
Never mind, man. For some reason, I don't know why it's just in my mind. But anyway.
It's that camaraderie, right? It's just that similarity, camaraderie.
I think so. And yeah, man, you immediately jumped on it, and some dude.
We didn't know each other, right? We didn't. I didn't know who you were at all.
No, not at all, man. I just basically gave you my little sob story. Hey, man, I'm deployed to Afghanistan. My wife's home with my newborn kid and my other son, and she needs some help. And you jumped on it right away. And the guy actually came from Pasadena all the way to Willis, Texas, which is probably an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
And he went out there and fixed everything. It wasn't a real complicated situation. And I told him, hey, just bill me. I can pay you over the phone with a card or something like that, or whatever. And it was like $125. I was like, what? He's like, nah, man, it's cool. It's not a big deal. I'm like, are you kidding me? $125? I mean, just the trip alone was $125. He's like, no, I understand you're out there in the military doing your service and whatnot. And, I just want to help out where I can. I really appreciate that. And then I reached out back to you and I told you the story of what your guy that you had done for me. And I guess after that, we just kind of talked about it. And, we talked a little bit about real estate investing. And we just kind of stayed in touch after the fact, man. But it was a really, really awesome moment of how we kind of just met when I was in a kind of a tough spot. I needed somebody to help me out, and you jumped on it real quick, man, and really helped me feel good about, about my wife and my kids being taken care of while I was, overseas, man. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the email, and I remember looking at it, and first you're like, okay, is this guy in Nigeria? Is he like a prince that he needs like $10 million? Like, what's going on here? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, this is legit. Like this guy's legit. So I remember calling the guy, the vendor that we know, and I said, hey man, I need you to do me a favor, and I need you to do it like now. And I said, this guy's, he's in the military, he's defending our country. I said, you need to go out there. I said, just take care of it. I said, if you want me to pay the bill, I'll pay the bill. I don't really care. But, he's there, his wife's here, they've got a newborn. I said, can you get out there like now? Just go and take care of it. And he's like, absolutely, don't worry about it. I got it taken care of. So, and it's good to hear that, we have that ability to do that for people because, I remember one time I was told that an entrepreneur is the loneliest job in the world because the person you work for is crazy and you're that person. And you don't have a playbook. There's nobody telling you. You don't have any friends. You're out there grinding every day. And this was very similar, and it's one of those things where you find that common bond with people that are out there. And then, and then you got out of the military. You came to Houston. You came back with your family. And then we started talking about real estate and you were telling me what you're doing. And then it just kind of flourished from there. But I mean, it goes to show, the ability of what having entrepreneur friends and people, like this group and other stuff that can actually help other people. And we don't need to know each other. It's just the same bond that we have that like, man, this guy's out there slugging it out, and I think you realize who's real and who's not real very quickly in this business, which I'm sure you know.
Absolutely, man. So, yeah, man, fast forward and, I ended up getting out of the military and, we ended up moving back to Texas and everything else like that. And, yeah, I just went full-fledged in, I was kind of one of those weird guys because, and I think that a lot of your viewers and people might actually resonate with this because, I came from a particular background, without telling you a bunch about my biography or whatever, but I was in the infantry and it was not like a very transferable skill in terms of like, there's something equivalent, like who wants a 40-year-old SWAT team guy? You know what I mean? Like those guys don't exist. I'm sure they do exist. I'm just saying, like it's not, what
it's
I
want. Abundance of them.
Yeah, and that's not really something that was like I was itching to do. Just changing the uniform out and doing the same job. So, so I decided to pursue something completely different, which was real estate investing. And really in the capacity that I was initially doing it when I first met you, man, was just really the buy and hold stuff. And, I really, really wish that I had gotten a mentor that would have, kicked me in the butt and basically told me, man, you know what, dude, just go all in, do more, buy more houses. Because this was like 2011, 2013 time frame between that little time period that we bought a handful of rentals, man. And man, the appreciation from the swing of the market since then has just been absolutely amazing. I wish I would have known what I know now about real estate investing, and I wish I would have had someone that would have like told me like it's okay for you to be scared. It's normal, but understand that this appreciation game that we're going to be playing is going to just do amazing things for your balance sheet. And it really did. And we bought just a handful at the time, man. And looking back on it now, I think sometimes you get involved with circles of people like this, and attached to someone that you trust, someone that you understand, and you really can appreciate, I guess, their story and kind of where they're at, and they're the real deal. You know what I mean? Actually doing it, and it'll help you kind of overcome a lot of those fears that we all have, everyone has,
Yeah.
of investing and kind of where to go to next.
So let me ask you this one, because you went from something kind of like me, from the airline industry to investing and then management, and you went something that's totally different in the military to going and buying and holding, and now what you're doing. For people that are thinking of getting into real estate at any level, the overarch is real estate. How do you think differently from how you thought when you first bought your house, your first deal that you went hot on and you bought? How do you didn't grow another arm, so physically you haven't changed, mentally you've changed. And would you say that the fear that you had, was it real or was it kind of in your head?
Man, that's a really good question, man. I think that a lot of that fear is just in our heads, man. It really, really is in our heads. We the fear of the unknown is a legitimate fear, and it needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that you can latch onto someone who can help you sidestep a few landmines. Pardon for the military puns there, man. But someone that can help you sidestep a few landmines, man. I mean, it's replicatable, it's doable. And everyone talks about success leaving clues, man, but it's definitely true. And a lot of the stuff that we have in our heads is just, preconceived notions that are not really realistic. People always come to me, ask me, teach them how to do, house flipping and whatnot. And they don't get it. They're like, well, where's the money going to come from? I don't have that money. And I'm like, we're going down rabbit holes of things that aren't even an issue. Find a deal. That should be your main focus.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. So from the military perspective, did a lot of things that you learned in the military, did they kick in and carry you through that fear? Or did you just kind of go, you know what, I'm just going to do it because I got nothing to lose and I'm going to push forward? Or how did you go from that? Because look, I know that when you buy your first deal, when you see a deal and all of a sudden you get a contract and you're going forward, of course, no one ever thinks best case scenario, right? The fear in your mind is always the worst case scenario. And then you got friends telling you, you got toilets, you got this, why do you want to do that? And obviously you had to push through. Was there any military that kind of said, hey, you know what? I've been in some of the worst stuff in my life. This is nothing. I'm moving forward. Or how did you go through that?
Man, you know what? I'll tell you, I think, it definitely helps you and it definitely influences you. One of the things that I think that it might do is like make you a little overconfident, if anything. You know what I mean? Because if you start having a little bit of success, then it really begins to kind of make you feel like what you're doing. Especially if you've only done like a handful of deals, you're like, oh, okay, so I know what's going on. I know how to do this. So sometimes I think that that's part of the military bravado, I guess I would call it, that I think is kind of normal, and it makes you take a little bit more risk. But at the same time, I think that it definitely plays into it, man. I think the maturity aspect of it, I think, is another big key component. It's very, very easy from the outside looking in and saying, well, everything that guy has done has prepared him perfectly for the position that he's fulfilling right now. You know what I mean? It's very easy to look at it from that perspective. But what people don't understand is that they themselves are going through that same exact process. They just haven't really fully embraced it to get themselves where they need to be. They just keep wanting to be spectators. You know what I mean? And I just feel like people have to begin moving from the spectator portion of whatever they're doing to get them to the next point, the next level of where they want to be. Because the military portion of it does affect you, but I think we all have that inside of us, man. I really do.
Yeah, and you like myself, when you talk to people, I always hear all the reasons why something won't work, right? They give me all the reasons, and I tell people, I hear why it won't work, but let's come up with some reasons why it may work. Like it could work. We know that there's a lot of successful people that own real estate, that flip properties, that wholesale. So we know in theory that it works. We can come up with all the reasons that it won't. And it's kind of like, if you were to rationalize why going to the moon wouldn't work, and they said, in 10 years, we're going to the moon. There was no logical reason why that would work, right? So it was the idea, and then they backed it up with data and everything that they did, and then they just took action at one point and said, okay, first thing is this, second thing is this, and next thing you know, they're going. And I think a lot of people that get involved in real estate, that transition from one industry to the other, it's almost like if they knew everything, you almost have to go with the, I just don't know, so I'm just going to do it. Because if you knew all the things and all the gotchas and all the drama that you may go through, you may not even get off the couch, right, at some point.
Yeah. You know what, man? You bring up a really good point, and I always want to be able to provide something actionable for the people that are watching. So I want to talk about something real quick because I've closed on deals that other investors have passed on because they get so consumed with the what ifs, the what if scenarios of like, well, what if the tenant doesn't move out? What if? So like I just wrote this thing down here, man. It's talk about the bad tenants. Yeah. So there is we buy properties from tired landlords pretty consistently, pretty regularly, man. And people sometimes walk away from those deals because they're just like, oh, but then I got to deal with terrible tenants and then I have to figure out how to evict them and go through the process and then do this and do that. And so what I'll tell you is that, yes, that is a concern. However, the thing is that how do you address that concern? So I want to give you something real quick that's very, very actionable that I just recently did. And the tired landlord was just done with the tenants. The tenants weren't paying on time. They were having issues, blah, blah, blah. Same sad story that we hear on a regular basis, okay? I came in and some other investor had already passed up on it because they didn't want to deal with it. I came in and I asked the seller, I said, hey, can I please have your permission to just talk to your tenant? He's like, yeah, sure, man, whatever. Good luck with that. And so I went in and I talked to this. I sat down with the tenant. I wanted an opportunity to go into the house, and I sat down with them and I said, hey, so, what's going on? What's the situation? And basically, without getting too long-winded about it, what was happening is that there was a communication breakdown between the tenant and the landlord. And from the tenant's perspective, is the landlord's fault. From the landlord's perspective, it was the tenant's fault that, whatever, this and this and that. But it was something that could just have been communicated, something that could have been just a conversation that needed to be had about some small minor repairs that seemed to be big repairs for the landlord, but small in the eyes of the tenant, whatever. Long story short, I was able to come up with a workable solution for the tenant. And I basically explained and said, hey, look, there's a very high likelihood that we're going to be the new guys showing up to buy the property. How do you feel about that? What's your take on that whole situation? And the beauty of it was like, hey, look, you know what? I really appreciate you helping me out. As a matter of fact, as long as I get the deposit, I'm kind of ready to go anyways. I was like, great, because the house needed a lot of work.
Yeah.
But, the landlord, he was just so desperate that he had already signed on the paperwork and done all the stuff that needed to get done. We just wanted to kind of come up with some sort of an alternate solution. But this is what I mean. Exactly what we're talking about is that people get so involved in like the what ifs. What if the tenant destroys the property before they leave? I'm buying a property with tenants already in it and they're already considered bad tenants, blah, blah, blah. But man, a lot of times that fear is just made up stuff. And most people, when you talk to them, are pretty reasonable. They just want to be heard. Maybe they want a little bit of money. I don't know. If it makes the deal work, it still makes the deal work. But, you can't let those things consume you to the point where you can't take action.
So I got two questions for you on that. So why do you think that, I'll go with the first one. In your experience of dealing with these owners that just kind of give up and they're done and they're done with it, do you see a common thread or common trend as to what there's a reason, right? In my opinion, I think there is, but I'm curious your opinion. Why are they giving up and why are they quitting and why are they walking away? Like, what are you seeing as to maybe the reason?
I think that the overarching reason why these landlords give up and are just done with it because they don't have a system for the business. They don't treat it as a business, man.
Yep.
they have no system for maintenance. They have no system for collecting the money. They have no system for charging fees when money is late. They have no system for a lot of this stuff. So they're just doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So when a maintenance call comes in, they got their 9 to 5, or they have their family, they have their kids, and they got to find somebody who's going to be able to do it. And it gets delayed, and then the tenant gets upset, and I'm not going to pay you until you fix this thing. And then they start getting, it's just kind of all just compounds on itself when there are no systems in a business.
That's exactly what I was saying. Because I, when we get investors that come over to us and they, before they sell to you, they may go, oh, maybe I'll hire a management company or something. And the common thread is they're not running it like a business. They have no policies, no procedures, no structure. They're not treating it like a business. They don't know the law. So they don't know like what is like here in Texas, they don't know what Texas property code is. So they don't know, can the tenant do that? Can they not pay rent? Can they pay rent? I don't know what the law is. And so again, people ask me all the time, like, what's the first thing I should do? I say the first thing you should do is create a business plan and make sure that you're running a proper business before you even buy a house. Make sure you understand the laws. If you don't want to learn those, you don't need to, then you should hire someone that does, because that's why 1 out of 3 landlords are in a lawsuit every year, is because they don't know what they're doing. They tell the tenant, well, I'm not going to fix it. Tenant calls a lawyer and the lawyer says, yep, that's property code. Owner's liable. We can sue him. Then the owner goes, real estate sucks. It doesn't suck. I mean, it's 4 walls and a roof. It's just a shell. It's the business inside of that shell. And normally it's the fault of the owner because they never took the time to realize they're running that business, and that's what I think is the biggest challenge in this.
Yeah, man.
So let's hear what you got going on now. I know you're busy. I see you on Facebook. I see you blowing and going. What's Juan up to these days, man?
Man, we're we're wholesaling like we always wholesale. We're doing fix and flips, man. And right at the tail end of 2018, I kind of really sat down and looked at the business as far as like some of the stuff that we were doing, and then Harvey was still fresh on everybody's mind. People were projecting for 2019 what's going to happen. The market's going to slow down. It's going to pick up. It's going to go faster. All these unknowns and stuff like that. And so we made a decision. We made a very active decision to only pursue properties below the median price point of properties for the Houston market, just to shield ourselves of what we thought might be a potential concern in the future. But I'll tell you, man, these houses, there's still a very active amount of buyers out there in the little, smaller price points, man. I mean, we're buying houses, like, say, for example, for about $65,000, dropping about 22 to 25,000 into it, and then selling them for like, 145, 150. You know what I mean? So it's you know what I mean? It's just that price point of 149.9 and below is still real solid, man. There's always buyers, and especially if you give them something that's clean and functional. I'm not saying, I am sometimes remiss to keep old cabinets and just, butter them up, man. You know what I mean? I want people to get a good quality house, and I don't want them to think twice about making a purchasing decision.
Sure. Yeah. And it's funny because I spoke at an event in Seattle with a good friend, Tarl and Grace up there. They had a big expo, and I went up there and I took an agent with me, and we had some deals. And I think that maybe we had like 5 deals that were available. And like by the time we actually got to Seattle, 2 or 3 of those deals were already gone. So I'm talking about deals that we have in Houston, and I'm like, this is how fast the market moves. It's like it doesn't, the price points that you're talking about, that's kind of the sweet spot. And, you're in Seattle, and houses there are, $400,000 or $500,000 for something you got to tear down and rehab, and it's going to be a negative cash flow scenario. And I'm sitting there saying, look, you can buy these for, 140 to 180. You get these deals, but they don't last. And sure enough, I mean, a couple of them were already gone by the time we even got up there. So I know exactly what you're saying. The market is absolutely, it's hot. And so it's one of those things like, for you, you've got to keep the velocity of money going, right? You have to keep turning those deals. How do you do that? How do you get in front to get these deals? Because they do go quickly. And how do you, I'm not talking your trade secrets, but how do you get out there and always initiate new ideas?
There's a very, very big trade secret that nobody ever really taught me when I first started real estate investing. And I'll fully disclose it, man. But the how-to portion of that is the more complicated piece. It's you have got to beat everybody to the seller. How do you beat everybody to the seller? Is there's different methods and different techniques that people use. But if you can really focus your energy on beating everyone to the seller, you're always going to win.
Sure. Speed is the key.
Right. And so, we do different things to try to get a hold of sellers. And, a lot of the stuff that we do is also systematized. Like, for example, when you get a seller on the phone, what are the next steps? You ask them four basic questions that I always talk about is, hey, tell me a little bit about the house. Number two, tell me a little bit about your situation. That's kind of, playing into the motivation aspect of it. The number one, tell me a little bit about the house. You want to find out about the equity portion in the house. Number three, you kind of want to ask them like, hey, what do you need for the property? Because that really presents it in a position where they kind of start talking about what they would need versus what they want for the property, which the want portion might be substantially higher. And then the fourth thing is if you pre-qualify them and they're a pretty good candidate, then you set the appointment. So 4 basic questions that we talk to people about whenever we get them on the phone or we have a new lead that's generated. So the thing is that you have to just be able to get to them that quickly. And then once you're there at the actual house, walking through the house, it's an actual presentation. You're doing a sales presentation. So you have to go there with the mentality of a salesperson, understanding that your goal there is to really come to an agreement on price. You've already done all your homework prior to showing up there, that you can make a purchasing decision right then and there. And so that's a real basic system of how we do it. And then the way we stay ahead of it is, man, I'm constantly looking for more private money, talking to people, man. And, quarter 4 for 2018, man, we blew through probably, I don't know, a couple $1 million in private money just in one quarter, man. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So, we reused the money, but here in recently I had to expand and keep growing and find more private capital. But yeah, man, it's just, I think the more you do it, the more you document it, like you say on social, man, the more legitimacy you get as a real estate investor. And I think it begins to kind of, you always got people that are looking at you. You don't have time to see, hey, who's checking out my stuff? But people are looking, and people will show up and they're like, yeah, you know what, man, I've been watching you for a while, and let's see when we can get together for a cup of coffee and talk about money.
Credibility. Yeah, credibility. Now, let me ask you this. In general, when you're doing a deal and you're outlaying the cash, do you have a idea of how quickly you want that money returned to you? Is there like a rule that as far as, hey, I want it back in so many days, months, what?
So typically what we do for the private lenders that loan us the money, we do 6 months, man, before we can, we'll ask for an extension, but we haven't had to ask for any extensions, man. So, I mean, it's pretty smooth. So we tell private lenders that, that the money's going to be short term. It's going to be 6 months. And oftentimes, because we have a pretty solid system, I mean, I used to listen to, back in the day, Lifestyles Unlimited. I used to listen to them. And the guy was like, man, real estate is boring. It's the same colors, the same house, the same everything, every single time, blah, blah. And he used to talk about that. And I was like, must be nice, man. It must be nice to talk about real estate as being boring. And it should be the same thing every single time. But like whenever you begin to, in my opinion, truly become a professional, you systematize a lot of stuff. And so like I am now in that situation where like we're using the same cabinets, the same granite countertops, the same backsplash, the same appliances, the same sort of the flooring. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You're not going to be able to do the same cabinet combination countertop stuff for the entire city of Houston. There's just too many houses. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Say for example, you're able to do 10 houses in 1 year and they all look the same. It won't, no one will ever notice.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you talk about systematizing it and what you're talking about it becoming mundane, you want it to be, right? At first you may have been like, okay, what color and where do I match and all that stuff. And now you're like, you know what? Number 1, number 2, number 4, that's what this house gets. Let's get it done. Let's move on. Because it's a conveyor belt, because you've got to get the money. You're like, I don't have time to go check these cabinets. I don't have time for that. Like, just put it in and let's keep going. It's it becomes much more non-emotional. And I think the more that people understand that it's becoming a business and it's non-emotional, I think the more successful they'll be, because they're not tied to this emotional thing or the fear. I'm sure a lot of people go, man, I only got 6 months. And now I got 5 months and 29 days. I got to get this money back. And that will run them into the ground by itself. Just the fear knowing that they got to pay someone back, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, man? I was just talking with one of the private lenders, and we were talking because we're closing on the house. I said, hey, great, man. Hey, look, and I'm just updating him. It's the first time that I've ever really dealt with him as a private lender. I've known him for a few years already, and this is the first time he's going to be lending to me on a project. And I said, hey, look, man, the dumpster got delivered today. We're closing today. We're starting the remodel tomorrow. He's like, man, he's like, that's fast. I'm like, is there really another way to do it? Yes, there is. And that's a broken way of doing it. But is there another way? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But like, he's a good guy. But I'm just pointing out the fact that, yes, we all have life. We all have things that go on. And sometimes it's not a perfect system where we can't go ahead and start. But you should always strive to, like, boom, the dumpster gets delivered and boom, the guys are starting either the same day or the next day. You know what I mean? Once the property's funded, green light. Let's change the locks. Let's get to work.
Let me ask a question. How often do you do a deal that you get from another investor that just let it die on the vine, or that the hard money, or not the hard money, the private money people took it back because they're like, this guy does not know what he's doing. He's not using my money correctly. Have you ever had those situations?
No, man. As a matter of fact, a while ago, I was kind of brainstorming with some people because, you know, we're trying to figure out a way to generate more leads, more properties that we can fix and flip or buy and hold or whatever the case we want to do with them. And we were brainstorming like, what would be a good lead source? And so one of the things that we came up with was exactly what you're talking about, is lenders whose deals have gone south. They lend some money out to an investor and they went south, and we're like, hey, man, we'll buy them. We have not defaulted on anybody in the I don't know, man. If I do the math, we're probably at about loan, and I don't want to BS anybody, man, probably $12 million, man, of money that we've borrowed and paid back, borrowed and paid back. We've never not paid anyone back. Their full amount plus all of their, you know, agreed upon interest.
And that's not counting problems that you've experienced. They don't care about your problems. They don't care that you've had I mean, I've seen some of your videos of, you know, you open up a wall and you're just like, so I mean, but they don't care. They're like, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Fix it and get my money.
Yep. And you know what, man? What's funny about that wall of bees, that house, man? We ended up not making that much money on it, but at least we made money on it, man. And it was quite a bit of a problem. But you know, the lender got all his money back plus the agreed upon interest. After the fact, I sent him a card saying thank you for trusting us with your hard-earned money. I sent them a you know those military coins that you have that are like emblazed with like different logos and stuff like that. I sent him that because I think, you know, it's a part of who I am as a person as well, you know. But just kind of to tie it all in. And after like we were done with the deal, I sent that to him to kind of show him, like, you know, this is not just a transaction to me. Like, I take this business very, very seriously.
That's awesome, man. So what's coming up for you, man? Give me 2019. What's your plan?
Man, it's a great question, man. I was just talking with my wife about that, about what we're going to be doing for, you know, we got the kids coming out of school. You know what I mean? We got to definitely go somewhere to kind of vacay with the family.
Yeah.
So we haven't decided on exactly what we're going to do for that. But for 2019, man, I'm telling you that, you know, I'm looking for bigger projects. I just landed a private investor who's got a substantial amount of money to invest. We're going to try to do some multifamily type stuff to buy and hold, and here in the Houston area, man. So, you know, as with anything, man, and it's, I know it sounds crazy, man. I know it, like, even myself, and I don't want to sound pompous about it at all, man. But the thing is that the more we do something, the better we get at it. But we have to understand that, like, we have to have some sort of end goal in mind. And like, I think that for a lot of people in real estate investing is the cash flow. Real estate investing is never going to be, in my opinion, fully hands off, no work, and you just sit back and you're freaking, you know, you're lazy boy and collect money. But
Yeah.
if you play the game correctly, you could amass a sizable amount of wealth and substantial amount of cash flow on a consistent basis, where you can live a certain type of lifestyle that you want. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so ultimately, we're looking to make bigger plays in small multifamily, um, with some of the lenders and stuff like that. But really, man, it's tired landlord sometimes, and opportunity just seems to be there, man. The Houston market is so strong, and people are always going to need a place to live, man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. I'm, you and I are very similar. We're hard chargers. Let me ask you this, and as we kind of wrap up the show, I know you're busy, and I know the holiday weekend's coming up. For people that are trying to get into this and they want to get into real estate or whatever, what would you say drives you? Like, what's your drive?
Man, I think everyone's going to have their own little thing, man. And man, I am driven by so many things. It's not just one thing, man. First of all, man, I'm really fortunate to be a U.S. citizen. I really am. I was not born in this country. I'm a naturalized citizen, and in the country I was born in, I lived, with dirt floors and an outhouse, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, dude. Like I'm telling you, man. Like we used to have a shingle roof, like the kind that's like the wavy kind, and
Yep.
it would rain. I mean, it's like Central America, man, El Salvador. It would rain like crazy hard, and so like on the roof there would be these little creepy crawly cockroaches that would just be crawling up, around there at nighttime, and the rain would just beat the shingles up, man, and like the condensation from the inside of the house would like create it in the inside, and that moisture and like these little critters would like sometimes fall from the ceiling onto my bare chest because you're sleeping with no shirt on because it's so hot, and like these cockroaches would land on my chest, and I'm just freaking out like these are roaches, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I came from that, man, and very, very humble beginnings. And so I was talking about this yesterday too, man. It's like if you come from a place where you've never had anything, you have to decide that you're going to be the person in your family to break those chains, because those are chains that are handed down, man. And I really do believe that I used to freak out about that. I used to freak out when I used to hear people talk about like you're passing on chains to your children, whether you want to or not, good or bad, whatever. And obviously chains don't have a positive connotation, but if we really think about it, man, the mentality, the pervasive mentality of want, and I don't have enough, and we're poor, we're always going to be poor. Why would anyone want to lend me millions of dollars? You know what I mean? Like these weird things are like, if we're not careful, they're passed down to us. And
Sure.
so one of the things that drives me is like, I am going to be the stopping. This is the chains are going to break with me. There's not going to be any more poverty in my family. We're not going to live a life of squalor. We're not going to be, living in that. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's one of the many, man. But we can sit here and talk all day about what really truly drives us, man. And yeah, sometimes it's just one thing, man. But at the end of the day, dude, it's a combination of a lot of things that really just makes us relentless, man. Which is why I named it Relentless Acquisitions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm so proud of you, man. I mean, you're doing good on all fronts. You really are, man. You should be very proud of yourself and everything you've done. And obviously, again, as a military, everything you've done, I just thank you again, man. And I'm so glad that we met the way we did, and it's worked out, and we're friends, and again, just I can't thank you enough for everything. And you should be very proud, and I'm sure your family's very proud of you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and they want to talk to you, because you do mentoring, you do a lot of stuff, how do they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, man. So on social, you can always look me up, Juan Cristales, Cristales, and I'm very easy to get a hold of, man. They can message me. I have a Facebook group called House Flipping Club. You know what I mean? And so we have that on Instagram, and people can email me, whatever the case, man. Look, here's the thing. Anyone who truly wants to do something in their life, and it doesn't matter what that thing is, they're going to find a way to get it done. I knew at some point that I want to be this real estate investor guy, and I was going to do everything that it took to get to where I wanted to get to. And I think that a lot of the people who are out there listening and think, I don't know, but I'm so scared. It's okay. It is quite fine to be scared. Just reach out to someone that can help you sidestep a few landmines and just start taking massive levels of action. Because when you do, you'll see the results. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be necessarily real estate related, but we have to take massive levels of action. We have to find someone that we trust that can help us sidestep a few landmines and just get to that point faster.
Man, I couldn't agree more. You know me, man. I'm a full throttle through the wall kind of guy. So I'm with you, man. I'm like sitting there shaking my head going, yep, that's right. That's exactly how I think, man. And it's tough it's easy to say fear is in your mind when it's facing you right in the eye, right? It's easy for you to say you've done it. You've done a bunch of deals. You've gone out on a limb. It worked for you. It's not going to work for me. But look, when we're facing that at that moment, we don't know that it's going to work for us either. And if you're not, I was taught that if your goals don't make you nervous and don't make you scared, they're not big enough. And so once you feel comfortable with your goals, it's time to reset those goals. So I cannot agree more. And again, Juan, I just want to thank you for coming on today, man. I love everything that you're doing, and I'm so glad we got to kind of watch you on this journey. And again, for anyone watching, you can please join the Facebook group, Landlord Survival Group on Facebook. It's a lot of good conversations on there. Also, you can download the show on iTunes, and you can find it there. You can go to managemyrental.com, selfmanagemyproperty.com. I think we've got a couple websites. But again, Juan, thank you so much for being on today, man. I really appreciate you. And for everybody, we'll see you guys in next week. Bye-bye.
There you go.
This has been the Landlord Survival Show. Join us next time for more of what the gurus don't tell you about owning rentals. And for even more, find us on Facebook.
Brought to you by Empire Industries Property Management. Built for investors, by investors. For more information about this show, visit our website, selfmanagemyproperty.com, home of the ultimate landlord survival handbook.